Did you know Netflix started out by renting DVDs and delivering them by mail? Or that Blockbuster, remember them, was once their biggest competition? So how did Netflix go from DVDs to streaming and revolutionize an entire industry in just over 2 decades? Well, it hasn't always been easy, and Netflix has seen plenty of controversy and criticism along the way. How it all started. In 1997, if you weren't in the mood to listen to a Backstreet Boys CD or play a round of Mario Kart on the Nintendo 64, your best bet to relax was probably watching something on your cube-shaped, standard-definition television set. In those days, if there was nothing to watch on the limited TV channels available, your best option for on-demand content was the video store, and that market was dominated by Blockbuster Video. However, it wasn't exactly convenient, since you'd have to get dressed and actually leave the house to go to your local video store and pick up a movie on DVD. That's if all the copies of the movie you wanted to watch hadn't already been rented out. Oh, and don't forget to return it on time to avoid any late fees. To introduce convenience, Netflix founders Reed Hastings and Mark Randolph got the idea to bring the DVD to you. Fascinated by the 1994 launch of Amazon and the new and evolving e-commerce market, the partners were inspired to bring video rentals to your doorstep by mail, without ever having to set foot in a physical rental store. After all, if pizza could be delivered, so could DVDs. On the back of the VCR era and its bulky VHS cassette tapes, Blockbuster was a juggernaut by the time Netflix was officially founded in August 1997. But the transition from VHS tape to the DVD era was on the horizon, and it was Netflix who got ahead of the curve. By September 1999, Blockbuster had more than 6,500 stores, but only 900 of them carried DVDs. 2 years later, in September of 2001, the numbers were up, but DVDs still only accounted for 20% of rentals. Netflix, meanwhile, was all DVD all the time, and entered the game with more than 900 DVD titles to choose from that were shipped out all across America, leaving a movie in your mailbox. While mailing out DVDs was the company's business model, it wouldn't last long. The streaming breakthrough. In February of 2007, a decade of Netflix DVD mail distribution was in full swing. A copy of the 2006 Brad Pitt drama Babel, delivered to Texas, marked the company's 1 billionth DVD delivery. But the writing was on the wall. Times were changing. When Netflix first opened up shop with 920 DVD titles to choose from, that number represented almost every single DVD produced at that point in time. Basically, if it existed on DVD, you could rent it from Netflix. But by 2005, US DVD sales reached their peak, making up 64% of all home videos sold across the United States and totaling $16.3 billion in sales industry-wide. The DVD craze was booming, and by early 2007, there were more than 70,000 films and shows available on DVD. But Netflix had lost ground and offered only a fraction of those, with just over 1,000 titles to choose from. Rather than being ahead of the game, Netflix was suddenly way behind and couldn't keep up with the available options, or the storage space and shipping manpower they would need to expand. So in January of that year, Hastings and Randolph pulled the trigger on transitioning to on-demand online streaming, a concept they were both familiar with from their previous computer industry experience. At the time, traditional on-demand content was limited to closed-circuit cable or satellite pay-per-view broadcasts. But the increased bandwidth and data speeds of the 2000s made the internet a viable option. The 2005 debut of YouTube was proof of concept that customers could, and indeed would, watch regular programming over the internet. So Netflix officially moved digital content from the computer screen and into our living rooms in January 2007. With instant load streaming and on-demand video, Netflix shattered the old formula. By paying a licensing fee for the rights to stream their content, studios no longer had to wait months for physical VHS tapes or DVDs to be physically manufactured in a factory and distributed to stores to start collecting sales and rental cash. Movies could now be streamed into households right after their theatrical run. This new streaming concept was great for the home movie watcher and for Netflix, but not so much for video rental stores. Going to the video store to rent a movie was no longer the only option. And once Blockbuster ceased operations in 2014, finding any video store became even less of an option. I mean, when was the last time you were in a video store to rent a movie? If you're curious about, well, stuff, and how things were compared to how they are today, Then hit that subscribe button so you never miss a now and then video. Thanks. Now back to binging on Netflix. Original content and going global. It wasn't long before Netflix became so prominent that it didn't need outside movies or TV shows to supply all the content. Through the popularity of its newly developed platform, Netflix soon turned its eye to exclusive content that would drum up even more demand and more monthly memberships. January 2012 saw the debut of the company's first exclusive program, Lilyhammer, a police comedy drama produced in Norway that could only be seen with a Netflix subscription. A little over a year after Lilyhammer, the streamer debuted its first original series, the political thriller House of Cards. An instant runaway hit, the program became the first online exclusive streaming series to be nominated in any of the major Emmy Awards categories, in addition to Golden Globe nominations, eventually finishing with more than 50 Emmy nominations and 8 Globe nominations, including 2 Golden Globe wins. House of Cards broke down barriers for streaming and showed that Netflix could compete with major networks and the likes of HBO. The series was popular enough that in Australia, New Zealand, and India, it was aired on traditional over-the-air and cable stations, before those countries even had actual Netflix streaming, conquering the traditional medium of TV along with the new one of streaming. House of Cards was also accompanied by DVD and Blu-ray releases, in a twist of fate that now had Netflix producing content for DVDs instead of the other way around. Boosted by a new wave of in-house produced content that followed, Netflix was booming and had expanded its streaming service to 130 countries by January 2016. And by the time Netflix celebrated its 20th birthday in 2017, it was carrying content to 190 nations around the world, with a total of 98 million subscribers. But with such a massive customer base, it became time for Netflix to keep up with demand by keeping up with the technology of the times. Technological innovations. Instead of warehouses filled with DVDs, streaming required what Netflix dubbed its data centers, warehouses packed to the brim with servers and databases that shipped megabytes per second of digital content instead of shipping out video discs. However, that method didn't last long. A massive system-wide database loss in 2008 grounded Netflix to a halt for 3 days. To prevent any further disruptions, the company quickly paired up with another 90s tech trailblazer, Amazon, and began the process of switching from physical data centers to cloud-based Amazon Web Services for its hosting, processing, and distribution needs. The last data center closed in 2016, making Netflix an AWS exclusive. Although estimates placed Netflix's cloud costs at nearly $10 million a month to operate, the company itself has stated that the cost is a fraction of what it took to run the original physical data centers. Hundreds of thousands of AWS servers now manage hundreds of system functions from data storage to algorithm analytics, watch recommendations, collecting subscription payments, and of course, showing the menu of images and previews in addition to playing the actual video files. There are some 700 microservices performed by Netflix, even if it just comes off as point and click to the average customer. It sure beats a pair of rabbit ears and a black and white TV. The new Netflix model. With all the technological progress Netflix has made since its 1990s origins, it might come as a surprise to know that the company was still shipping good old-fashioned physical DVDs as recently as 2023. The familiar red envelope was mailed out for the last time on September 29, 2023, with a copy of the 2010 adventure western True Grit starring Jeff Bridges. And much like a cowboy riding off into the sunset, the end of Netflix DVDs signaled that the company, like the world at large, was galloping into the digital age. Like the brick-and-mortar video rental stores of the time, the original Netflix business model charged customers on a per-rental payment basis. But by the year 2000, the company had transitioned to the now familiar monthly subscription plan that would define streaming at large for years to come. Netflix's success gave rise to a slew of copycats and stiff competition, and the streaming floodgates soon opened. A decade before Amazon's AWS would become the backbone of Netflix in 2016, Amazon's first streaming service entered the game in September 2006 under the name Amazon Unbox, until becoming the name we know today, Prime Video. The following year, Hulu launched in October 2007. And better late than never, Disney Plus entered the battle with a November 2019 debut. With so many streaming options, Netflix was directly responsible for a massive shift in the way we consume entertainment. Cutting into cable. The convenience of binge-watching meant bad news for traditional TV viewing, and a phenomenon dubbed cord-cutting became a metaphor for customers leaving the cable and satellite world behind. For the first time since the invention of television, watching your favorite TV shows no longer required you to check the TV guide so you didn't miss an episode, or set the VCR, then PVR. Streaming added convenience to the equation, as long as you could avoid spoilers, and with a lower monthly price point in addition to being commercial-free, the digital demographics were migrating quickly. In 2008, it was estimated that just under 1 million American homes were only watching shows over the internet. But in less than 10 years, that number was over 22 million homes in 2017. Soon enough, streaming became so prominent that cord cutters gave way to cord nevers. Generations of viewers who had only ever known internet-delivered entertainment in their lifetimes, and to whom traditional television viewing was as alien as the characters in any Netflix-exclusive science fiction flick. Netflix Controversies. Of course, the runaway success of the platform hasn't come without its share of criticism. After House of Cards, Netflix put further focus on other exclusive content with acclaimed original film productions like The Irishman, All Quiet on the Western Front, and Marriage Story, in addition to original shows like Grace and Frankie, The Unbreakable Kimmy Schmidt, and Orange is the New Black. But a quality versus quantity debate soon arose among viewers, with some complaining there was too much focus on original content at the expense of expanding Netflix's full library. Meanwhile, some found the catalog was already too big, with a common refrain being, "There's so much to watch on Netflix we can never decide what to pick." Further grumbling and groaning backlash came with an early 2023 crackdown on users sharing their passwords with friends and family to save on paying for multiple subscriptions, and analysts worried the public perception would turn away customers. But the opposite happened when viewers just couldn't get by without their Netflix fix, and 9 million new accounts around the world were signed up in just over 6 months following the password enforcement. The future of Netflix. In a crowded marketplace, Netflix will once again have to find ways to get ahead of the curve and separate itself from the pack. Although subject to lawsuits from choose-your-own-adventure book publishers that were eventually settled, Netflix's 2018 interactive sci-fi thriller Black Mirror Bandersnatch introduced the masses to using the menu to pick the plot, just like we picked the content in the first place, and has expanded that genre in the years ever since, and in those to come. And you might be making those choices in virtual reality. With Netflix VR already present on the Quest and Meta Quest Pro VR headsets, they could perhaps surpass phones, TVs, and tablets to one day become the only way we watch Netflix. What is a certainty is a retreat from Netflix from that original content that made such a splash just years earlier, with the company looking to cut their film projects in half, from 50 to 25 in 2024. While Netflix may have been the catalyst behind cord-cutting, they're now returning to an ad-supported broadcasting model just like cable and satellite before it. Netflix is cycling back to TV with commercials before it forges ahead into new broadcasting worlds, like live sports streaming. And Netflix is doing the unexpected and plans to open 2 massive entertainment complexes in Dallas and Philadelphia called Netflix Houses in 2025, providing a Netflix theme park-type experience. But whatever lies ahead, Netflix has brought us a 21st century viewing experience that is somehow still as communal as crowding around a living room TV in the 20th century. Stick around, we've got another Now and Then video just for you, so keep on watching. Thanks.